Hello, welcome to the Ba.Bl podcast. I am Xochitl, your host. We're still here, third time, talking about this anti-abortion law, the ban on abortions. And now I want to talk about what happens to women when they don't have an abortion and keep a child. It's not a great situation for them. If you listen to the other podcasts, you'll hear my personal story of when I could have gotten pregnant as a young person, and chose to use a condom and didn't get pregnant. And then later I told the story of when I did get pregnant and had to have an abortion. Well, I want to talk about what happens to a woman when they have a child and they don't have an abortion, and why it is so tough. So a good situation, teenagers have a kid. Here's what happens to them, okay? They have to somewhat give up on their dreams. Just somewhat give up on their dreams. Their level of confidence, I wouldn't say broken. Broken's probably not a great word, but the confidence levels and everything that makes them powerful as women doesn't lower, but it transfers. It gets focused onto providing for their children. And although they may not be working a lot, it's really tough on them, because what I see is, these big superstars, they had kids as teenagers. Here's what's happening to the ones that are Republican, okay? The story that I'm hearing. So they had babies as teenagers. Their kids are taken care of now. They pay child support. They're still in their lives. But I'm hearing them talk about their exes, like they're lazy, they didn't make anything of themselves, they didn't have bigger dreams. I don't think that's true. Other claims similar to that made about exes, that's why they're not together, etc. But I'm saying that that's what happens when you're young, you have a baby, and your partner or the father ends up going on to make it in the world, whatever career they choose. You become reliant on that. So that's what will feed the kids, even if you're not together anymore. You'll end up getting child support. And so, yeah, there are a lot of women that rely on that, and I myself think sometimes, well, get a job, do it yourself. Forget him. And my father had to pay child support of a child that he wasn't sure was his. Never sure that it was his. And continued to ask him for money when we didn't have any. My dad didn't have any money. And so there's a lot of that going on where just because you're pregnant, how do I know it's mine, kind of a thing. And so men will leave, and even if they think it's theirs, even if they don't think it's theirs, they might stay. But if they think it's theirs, they'll want to support their kids and still be in their lives sometimes. That's the good situation, right? But what happens to a woman is that she has to give up a few years of her life to dedicate to parenting and learn what that is for her and how that's going to work. But in that, all the power that she has gets transferred into parenthood and is no longer focused on herself and what she needs to do. You get that back a few years later. If you don't hold on to it, you get it back and you go, oh, I want to do something. but sometimes it doesn't come back. And so what happens is the father of your child may become a big superstar, still want their kids in their lives, but you've now become the person that is talked about as, someone that didn't have any other dreams, broke up because there was no, there was no, what do you call it? They didn't want to focus on anything else. They didn't want to do anything for themselves. So then they become lazy. And that's how they think of them. And that's how they end up making the world think of them. And so in some cases it's true, but in some cases it's not. It's just like, well, what are you going to do? So you focus all your energy on parenting these kids that are now kids of a multimillionaire or a star or whatever. And it's a different challenge because it's not your life, it's the father's life. And so your challenge as a parent, again, that energy, that power gets transferred into parenthood and it becomes your whole life. So though they may have jobs, they really do give up on themselves a little bit. But I'm saying in a lot of cases that is the best case scenario. The father becomes a star. The father makes a lot of money in some other field, goes to college, and still wants to be in the child's life. A lot of other times, that is not the case. But hey, this is the Ba.Bl world, and I know you're thinking, what in the world are you talking about? What does this have to do with dancing and ballroom and etc.? I won't say nothing. We dancers, ballroom dancers, all kinds of dancers have sex, okay? All ages, well, I mean, teenagers and above, they're doing it. And we can't ignore that happens and pretend like, oh, dancing is just what I think a lot of people say is that dancing is like sex, as if we don't have to have it. But that's how people fall in love on the dance floor. And a lot of the dance couples, the dance partners that you will see, famous world dancers, they're couples, they're together, they're partners in their lives and on the dance floor. And so I think people have this thing where they think this happens to other people, it doesn't happen to us. And the ballroom community is filled with people who have been faced with some of these situations, coming out of it or going into it, or it's not happened yet, but it may in the future. Or it's so far behind them and they want, to forget that it ever existed, and so they're fancy. And so, I'm here talking about it because dancers and ballroom dancers are not any different. We've been through this too. We go through this too. It's happened to us. It's happened to people we know. So let's not pretend like this world is so fantastic. This isn't a world of fantasy. We live real lives. There's mothers, teenagers, all ages of people that get pregnant that may be on drugs, alcoholics. And, drugs can do a lot of things. One, either whether they're addicted or not. A young person doesn't have as much self-control or knowledge and may be doing that while pregnant. And if they don't just have the option to have an abortion, this is the problem the child's going to face throughout their lives. The child may not even live. And so the fetus, if you care so much about the baby's life, the fetus is suffering and in pain. And then once born, suffering and in pain until its death. A lot of times these women will not tell their doctors. Doctors can tell, I'm sure. There's tests they can take that will show that they were on drugs. But they can't say, they're not going to say, this woman's on drugs, abort the baby, if abortion is banned. They'll be forced to have that baby. And, you're forcing that fetus to go through things it shouldn't have to. So there's drugs, there's alcohol, something we're not talking about. Like, and the Democratic Party isn't thinking to tell you about these things and open up your mind and say, hey, this is why we don't want it. I'm here to tell you, and I can only reach so many people. I only have 600 something followers. What if some of my followers are in a red state and I can change their minds, help, make something occur to them that maybe this isn't a great idea, then I've done something right. That's the goal here. I want you to fully understand what you're voting for. And seriously keep thinking about the worst possible situations. But the worst possible situations where the doctors will not make the decision for it, the doctors won't see it as a medical reason to abort. So it will then be illegal. And how it's not just the mother we're worrying about, but you're so worried about the fetus. It is the fetus we're worried about. If people who have HIV and AIDS can't have abortions, what we've done to prevent that disease is going to be pointless, meaningless, will be totally erased, regardless of the research on the drugs and making more drugs for people to live longer on it. It just will increase the amount of people who have it and contract it. I don't know why people think it's a good idea to prevent that. I mean, I don't think doctors are going to be like, oh yeah, you have AIDS, so we must kill the baby. Is that the way that goes? Because that's worse. First of all, even if you have HIV, it should be, or AIDS, it should be your decision. Even if you have cancer or disability, it should be your decision, right? But banning the abortion just says you can't make the decision not to have it. And so I think in a lot of cases that is stupid to force people to do. Being a person with HIV and AIDS on medication does not make it a medical reason to have an abortion. Because I think that should be another law. That should be something else that's illegal, is preventing people from having children who suffer an illness, because they can't just say, oh, just people with HIV and AIDS. That will transfer into all people with illness. This is the checklist that's going to happen one after the other if we keep voting in this way. Ban abortions, we take away rights from women, we take away rights from people of color, we take away rights from people with illness, we take away rights from people who have challenges, disabilities, and so on. But it's just one thing after the other. And that's what it will turn into. That's what it will translate to. That's how it will grow, because then we'll have to figure out the solutions to be able to keep the thing that's causing the problem, which is the ban on abortion. Could you believe it? I'm running out of things to say. Don't believe it, because I'm not done. I will come up with something in 5 minutes or by the end of the day. Come back on here and give you another reason why we shouldn't vote for Trump, why we shouldn't vote for banning abortion. This is the biggest topic, although I do believe that the war should be the biggest topic, but this is the biggest national crisis that could possibly happen in the next few months. So I really want people to think about this before November 5th. Thank you for listening and watching. If you just watched this one, please go back and click on the other videos on the same topic. There's a lot of information here. There's a lot to go over, and I don't think there's enough of it being said that I have been on here listening to. If you've heard it before, comment, talk to me about it. Tell me your thoughts, and even if you disagree, I want to know why. This should be the real discussion that maybe we should have had months ago, but we should be discussing it no matter what we vote for. These topics should be open for discussion everywhere, as should contraception and medical issues like AIDS, sex, everything about it. People need to know, teenagers need to be aware. I think we just have forgotten about prevention and forgotten about the time when we needed to have after school specials, and how easy it is to, just as easy as COVID came and almost destroyed our world, it can happen again. And we can't make decisions that get us closer to the next one, on purpose. It doesn't make any sense. So hopefully you'll connect to the other videos and you'll watch the future ones as well. I thank you for being here. See you next time.